Hello and welcome, family, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life in your own story. That you've done enough research to figure out what this world is about, because so many lies have been told on top of lies, on top of lies, on top of lies. And many people are so far from the truth that it would actually shock them. But those are definitely stories for other days. Special shout out to our Patreon family. Thank you so much for for sponsoring the show, and for everyone that sends us love donations through PayPal. We appreciate, love you so much. And I just wanted to give you guys an update on Kenya. Thank you so much to every single person that prayed with us, that fasted for the nation, that lit a candle for the nation, that just sent us positive vibes and positive intentions. Because as we were saying then, it was really a spiritual battle for one of the major doors for the awakening. And Kenya, many prophets and seers have talked about how Kenya will be the seat of revival. But it's not going to be a religious revival. It's not a religious thing. It's more of a spiritual awakening. And that's what determined this election. It wasn't people, it wasn't systems. In fact, deep state, as they call them, deep state. Everything was against this man. And I didn't actually realize how big of a deal it was until I was getting calls from some leaders in Tanzania, West Africa, all it could just say, saying they were following this. And this is not just for Kenya, but it's for Africa. So I went deeper in my meditation and I asked, what is so significant about William Samoei Ruto, the president-elect? And I'm not looking at the physical man. This is kind of, I'm going to look at the anointing. This is the spirit that is going to, I don't want to say take him over, but this is the spirit that is going to come to the forefront during his reign. And the fact that he carries the name Samoei means that, I hope his handlers and his spiritual peoples around him have really studied the story of Samoei, and the fact that Babylon even still has the head of the previous Samoei, who was a great political and spiritual leader of the Nandi people. You see, Kenya is like a nation, a very special nation. It's like a country of many massive nations that all came. And we were called Kenya, etc., etc. But there were great resistance movements, like the Nandi resistance movement. I don't know if you haven't done your research and you're Kenyan, please check it out. And it all involved Samoei, Kol Talel. Now, he was a big political and religious leader. And you can already see, back in the day, Ruto was actually like a preacher man, and now he's a politician. Don't take these things for granted, because when you carry a name, it's like me, I carry the name Mumbi. Let me tell you, the spirit of Mumbi is more powerful than, the spirit of Sarah, which is my other name. It's more powerful, family. It has more dominion in my life. It determines more of my destiny, and that's what I'm saying. The fact that William Ruto carries this Samoei name, which he's made prevalent, which he's brought, really, that's what won him the election. Because you see, this was a spiritual election on so many levels. But at the core, it was about which spirit will enable us. We needed a certain reincarnated ancestor to carry us through. The Mau Mau were also supposed to have their leader, but that was hijacked by the false Mudhamaki, stories for other days. So that's why, because the rulership was supposed to go back to the Mau Mau in this season. That was the prophetic, season we were in. But so much was done from, certain freedom fighters having their dreadlocks cut and who knows what kind of wizardry being done, to very mysterious deaths of almost 6 or 7 Mau Mau veterans who held a lot of the instruments of power. So already the Mau Mau, it was like we were hijacked from the inside. If you know, you know. And so, but it was a warrior king that needed to come through at such a time as this, because Kenya is a chosen nation. Kenya is one of the doors. It's not a window, it's one of the doors for the new dispensation and the new life. And so it has to be under I mean, a person with a certain anointing. That's what won this election. Samoei is what won William Ruto the election. And if you know, you know. I'm speaking in a lot of code, and I hope, for those who need to get this, that they'll get what I'm trying to say. And so, and let me just even tell you who Samoei was. So, he was, Koil Talel Arab Samoei. He was a great political and spiritual leader of the mighty Nandi people, the ones that many of you may know as the great athletes, the marathoners. So they have some special blood. It's not just about that atmosphere. And he was born in 1860, and he was the last born of 4 sons, but the anointing fell on him. And, he succeeded his father as the Orkoyot, the supreme spiritual and political leader of the Nandi people. And basically, the Orkoyot was traditionally from the Talai clan of the Nandi, who were believed to have been picked by God himself to deliver certain messages to the people. And Samoei actually prophesied about the coming of a black snake spitting fire, which would pass through the land of the Nandi, which later was the railway station. And not long after he gave this prophecy, the British approached Samoei demanding to be allowed to build the Kenya-Uganda railway through Nandi land. But Samoei would not have strangers in his land, and he totally went against it. He rallied his men, and he started the Great Nandi Resistance, and he was able to resist the British for a long, long time. And I mean, whoever Ruto's handlers are, you guys need to study this story, because that season, it's like we're back in a loophole like that. You see, Babylon has us stuck in a loop. And, anyway, Samoei, he was a very strategic military leader, planning surprise attacks on railroad workers, etc. And the British, when they least expected it, and he was able, he scared them. He was able to resist. He was a powerhouse. And so, with their sneaky ways, the British tried to capture him, they tried to kidnap him, they tried to take him out, but he kept winning, and the word spread. And more nations saw, hey, okay, these guys can be different. Wow, look at what's happening. And it was narratives, family. It was a kind of narrative that gave many kind of the kahunas to resist, the Babylon Empire, if you want to call it that, And sadly, family, in the end, the only way they were able to get him is through trickery. And eventually, the British called for a fake truce meeting to negotiate peace, and each party was to come accompanied by 5 people. And unknown to Samoei and his people, this was just a trick to entrap and harm him. And then Richard Maint Zagan, who was a British colonel, had marched from, Nandi fort with 80 armed men, 75 of whom hid behind the meeting place. And Koitalel Arab Samoei went to shake hands with the colonel and was immediately shot at point blank range. And only one of Koitalel's men actually escaped to tell the story. They beheaded Samoei, and they took his head to the divided kingdom, where they have performed. This now I'm telling you what I was shown in the spirit. They have performed, because why are they obsessed with our skulls, man? It's because they performed a containment spell on him to contain his spirit, to make sure that it never returned. But we're in a new season, we're in a new dispensation. All those spirits are free now, because Babylon has, I keep telling you Babylon has fallen and you won't believe me. And so here comes the return of Samoei in William Ruto, and it is a heavy, heavy burden to carry. But he has all the giftings. He's extremely brilliant. He's intelligent. He's chosen very intelligent people around him. But that's the anointing that is going to eventually shape his presidency. Whether you guys want to talk corruption, all of that, the previous dispensation is gone. Things like global famine, poison, climate change. These are the things now. This is the new war. And this kind of season that we're entering into, we're going to need, look how still everything is. We're going to need family, great warriors to come through, our leaders and our spiritual leaders. That is the time we're in. Because Kenya is key to the restoration of the world. I was speaking to a major Tanzanian leader yesterday, and he was telling me how, Ruto was basically changing the landscape of Africa. But this has inspired the world, family. First time winner, hustler. He's inspired the African hustlers. But that's the spirit of what he's embodying. And so because of that, whoever his handlers are, they need to look at the positives and the negatives and recognize, even him, he can do it. I mean, I'm sure he knows the story. He probably already knows this. But for you, our nation and the world, things are now there. The warrior kings are starting to come back. Some people don't believe in reincarnation, but that spirit is back. The warrior kings and queens are back for such a time as this, because we are entering a very perilous time, family. And at the same time, there's the birthing of a totally new dispensation. Whenever, Rome is falling, family. Babylon is collapsing. Asia is already rising. And the African giants, they've already been saying we're rising, but where is it supposed to happen? It's going to happen through you and me. And I share this to say that, it's now beginning, family. They tried to do everything to stop William Samoei Ruto from being president. And I'm not saying Raila couldn't have done it either. And I'm not saying that they won't try and compromise Ruto. But the spirit, we have to look at the spirit of things. The spirit, the overriding spirit that will guide William Samoei Ruto on this political journey is Samoei. He will give him the genius. He will give him the insight, the strategy, but he also has to be aware of where Samoei fell short. The previous Samoei was only 25 when he became the political and spiritual leader. And ironically, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but Ruto used to be, he used to be a preacher back in the day when he was in university. Coincidence? But you can already see, the fact that they've got him padded up. I hope I didn't hit my white mic. That spiritual, the spiritual protection that these evangelicals, although the mission is not about them, that they have to place on him, and the spiritual burden even on his wife Rachel and their children who are also spiritually gifted is intense, and the spiritual community. Because the fact that we're in the season of return of a warrior king. Yeah, the warrior queen is also here. Stories for other days. But the fact that he made it to the presidency means that it's here. It's time. That door in Kenya that will lead to global restoration, global revival, a totally change in reality that will start here. It's about to happen. And he has been selected to hold the space with all his intelligence, with the most intelligent minds of Kenya. Because let me tell you, Babylon is a slippery snake. They're full of trickery. And, and they're coming up with all these quote unquote global mandates that have to be navigated with elegance and high-level intelligence, because they're doing everything to contaminate as many people as possible so that they don't get to experience the new earth, the new world, the restoration of our people, the return of the Messiah spirit. And literally, that's why there was so much contention. I mean, if you were spiritually sensitive, the kind of warfare and contention that was going on in the heavenlies was intense. And the number of times they kept unleashing that, chaos spirit, and it was blocked. Chaos spirit, blocked, chaos. Because it's time. It's time, family. It's time for Mama Africa, and he, has been chosen for this. Probably before birth, because he happens to be 55. If you look at gematria and numerology and all of that, 55 or 555 is the number of change. Even just 5 is the number of change, transformation, turnaround. And the Babylon story is fading. And he will probably have to transition Kenya into a whole new governance, which is why he has both that spiritual and that political. And the challenge will also be midwifing this spiritual awakening, because it's not a religious thing, and yet a lot of us are in that religious vibe. Anyway, Samoei is back. What? And expect a lot more warrior kings and queens to be popping up all over Africa to take their place. Oh my gosh, I feel like... It's time, family. I don't want to cry, it's time. Many warrior kings and queens are going to come into power now, into positions of power. They may not even know what it's about. But the name you carry is the vibration you carry. It is who you are. And I mean, there's so much. I know, like, astrologers and stuff have probably got into his birth date, everything. It's time, family. Thank you so much to everyone that stood with Kenya during this season to help us to get the right leader in place for such a time as this. It was more of a spiritual thing than a physical thing. Remember, there's so much happening in the heavenlies as everything is being reset. And all leaders from here on out will have to be both political and spiritual, because it's emergence of that. And things are way more spiritual than they are physical. If you're looking at things just on a physical level of economy and corruption and health, and so you'll miss the whole point. Because there's games now that are being played out, that are being rolled out. They have more. Oh, come on, guys. Hey. Oh my God, the monkeys, man. Seriously. Sorry, guys. They kind of crept up on me. They come so close. Anyway. I think that's about it. There's a lot of spiritual. People have to, now you have to lead with a spiritual eye first. Try understanding all of this of how the governments and all this work, but lead with a spiritual eye so that you don't mislead your people. Whoever has any kind of following, is helping any kind of community, lead spiritually first in this new dispensation. Tuko pamoja. looking for a conscious community, or for people, who are on their awakening journey, on their transition to an off-grid living in your country, well, we have the solution, family. We're calling it Unity Communities. We get so many emails every week from people who ask if I know of people in their region, or people in their city, or people in their town who are on a similar kind of journey, who have broken away or are breaking away from the religious psychosis, and they're looking for just people who think the same way in their town, in their city. But more importantly, to give us a community where we feel understood, understood, overstood, where we can bond with people of like mind. And if you feel called to be part of this, definitely email me at Dr. Mumbi at drmumbishow.com. Please put your country in the subject line with Unity Communities. Get in touch with me, Dr. Mumbi at drmumbishow.com. Unity Communities.